for our first book club meeting, we are going to discuss Sylvia Plath's The Bell Jar.
I did feel like it started with her already in a depression. She describes, feeling like the eye of the storm. She's feels like an observer. She doesn't feel connected. I do feel like at the end, she says, I am.
Mm-hmm.
She's feels like she's made a recovery of sorts.
What do you think was the author's perception in writing the book? Do you think it was a cry for help or an attempt to give the author hope? Because when I finally realized that she survived, that was the first thing that I thought to myself. To me, I felt like she was trying to give herself a purpose by writing this book and allowing Esther Greenwood to survive.
Maybe that was what she was planning at the time.
Yeah.
To live.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the way I thought. I thought she
yeah.
was trying to build a purpose or to give herself hope.
And maybe it is you write a way out of it somehow, like this can get better.
I mean, she must have been extremely depressed to commit suicide when she had these young kids by her side.
Maybe this was her just way of talking about it,
Mm-hmm.
because you probably had no one to talk to.
Yeah.
So you're right about it. But I think what we can't really understand about that level of depression is that people that feel that, they can't see the positive. They can't see, I have kids that I have to live for and I have to do this. They can't see past where they are.
The title of the book was used several times throughout the book to describe Esther Greenwood's descent to depression. Why do you think that was so?
It's so I think she felt like she was like a specimen in this terrarium, being maybe being judged, being observed, feeling stifled, trapped.
I think that's what it was. It was more like being trapped with her emotions in like a closed off area where others could see her but not touch her. So she couldn't receive any kind of help, or she felt like she couldn't receive help because she was just stuck there.
Basically, I think she was trapped by her mental illness, and it didn't matter. She didn't see where changing her situation was, her location was necessarily going to improve the way she felt.
Yeah, because like you said, it's used to trap air inside of it.
Yeah. Maybe it was just like this cloud that she was dealing with. Maybe that was her suffocation. Maybe that's what was suffocating her, actually. What was the role of women in the book? How are mothers and single women represented? And she says that right after the wedding, her father turned to her mother and said, "Woo, that's a relief. Now we can stop pretending and be ourselves." And from that day on, my mother never had a minute's peace. So that just, when you're intimate with someone, you would expect that, all along, all throughout that time, you were yourself at that time. But
You put your best foot forward while you're dating, and then you stop trying as hard afterwards.
Yeah, especially in the old days when you didn't live with your partner before getting married, so you wouldn't exactly know how they behaved in the home.
But as far as the book, the book really is rooted in the time that women had a certain role. They were more, these people were even getting pretty well educated, but they were in general not really going to work. After that, they were just to be
They
educated.
said, who are you going to marry?
Then you would be married and you would start that life.
And even the doctor boyfriend was like, well, now who are you going to marry now that you've been here?
Yeah.
I mean, here she is visiting him when he was sick with TB. She was tolerating him. She was doing whatever he wanted her to do, going along with him. And then all of a sudden, when it's her turn to, fall apart, he's like, well, who's going to marry you now?
But he said it genuinely, like he kind of cared.
Oh, yeah.
This was nobody was going to marry you now. He did care for her.
Well, as we see
he
it.
didn't.
What has the character taught you about yourself? To me, it's that I am a lot more fortunate and a lot more stronger than I thought.
We have so many freedoms now that we, didn't have. when you consider even how recently women have had the right to vote, or I was looking at a meme that was popular recently. They were talking about, women couldn't have bank accounts, they couldn't, all these things they couldn't do until in these times, these dates, when I was a child.
Women are still behind in so many ways. We are becoming more educated, but we are also leaving the workforce. We're not working the way that we should be. We're not getting paid as much as we should be. Sexual assault. I mean, the past few months alone during this summer, how many times have we run into headlines where women on college campuses were raped, or women abroad were raped, and the laws aren't strong enough to protect them.
I don't really feel like she's taught me anything about myself particularly, but I kind of think like you are. Well, it really makes me glad that we're in an age where we're not dealing with mental illness maybe quite this harshly.
You guys consider Esther a hero? What about the author Sylvia Plath? And how do their attempted suicides influence your perceptions?
I see her as having admirable qualities, but I didn't really see her as a heroine. I saw her as someone with a lot of gifts who became ill and didn't really make use of them.
I saw her as a hero. I mean, to have gone through everything that she has gone through, and then to see one of her friends or acquaintances commit suicide, because that friend didn't commit suicide until Esther showed up at her doorstep bleeding. But now feminism is very important to me. So what does it mean to you, and how does your definition compare to the characters?
She was like, had a different standard, like men were allowed to do what they wanted and women
and she made
allowed
it clear.
to. Or,
Remember that article?
Yeah.
But I mean, the character herself made it very clear that she did not want to serve a man, and she was adamant about losing her virginity before she got married.
Yeah.
She was very, very adamant. She
wanted to own it.
She wanted to own it. Yes, she wanted to own it.
She definitely wanted something for herself, even with all her problems and whatever. She wanted something more for herself. I mean, she even says at some point, "Why can't I be happy married, or why don't I want to be married to this guy who's going to be a wealthy doctor and live this life?" Like, that's what was expected of her, but she can't see herself doing it.
She can't. And at one time, she even questioned what others would even think of her for not wanting to marry this doctor who was apparently, going to have a very wealthy and prosperous future ahead of himself. Right. When I finally discovered that, when I finally made that connection that she did have a child, and since it's still like very vague about whether that child is hers or not, I'm assuming that it is. But the first thing that ran through my mind is she a hypocrite? Because it sounds as if she wound up being this woman she didn't want to be. She's home taking care of a child. She wanted so much more out of her life than that.
Of course, if she's a writer and her husband's a writer, maybe they're both at
home. Maybe they're, you're right, maybe they're working from home.
She is a pretty strong feminist, because two things that really stood out to me in the parts that I did read were that she, first of all, really resented Buddy for having sex with somebody before,
when she wasn't supposed
when she was
to.
expected to be pure, and she was saving herself her whole life for him.
I saw that, and she does say that, like throughout the book, she does say that she's just, she's really angry that he gave up his virginity, and she's going to give up her virginity.
And even though she knew Buddy, even before she found out he was not a virgin anymore, it sounded like had already decided she didn't really like him. I mean, she liked him the first year, and then I kind of felt like he wore off. That charm wore off.
Because I feel like I really focused on the first half of the book before the assault because I couldn't get past it. But I feel like she really, really liked Buddy. And then once she found out that thing about him, that he had given up his virginity to like some random waitress, that's when she started to really build up resentment against him, and that changed her perception of him. And then she ended up just hating him.